existence or stages of life's way, and conclude with some observations about how Nietzsche would view this project of becoming an existential individual. Shortly after the end of the war, Sartre delivered a public lecture entitled "Is Existentialism a Humanism?" that rocked the intellectual life of Paris and served as a quasi-manifesto for the movement. From then on, existentialism was associated with a certain kind of humanistic philosophy that gives human beings and human values pride of place, and with critiques of alternative versions of humanism accepted at that time. In Chapter 3, I discuss the implications of that problematic lecture, the only one Sartre ever regretted publishing, as well as his contemporary Martin Heidegger's response in his famous Letter on Humanism. While the supreme value of existentialist thought is commonly acknowledged to be freedom, its primary virtue is authenticity. Chapter 4 is devoted to this topic as well as to the nature and forms of self-deception, or bad faith, that function as its contrary. I relate authenticity to existential individuality and consider the possibility of an ethics of authenticity based on existential responsibility. In order to counter the criticism, widespread immediately after the war, that existentialism is simply another form of bourgeois individualism, bereft of collective consciousness and indifferent to the need to address the social issues of the day, I devote Chapter 5 to the issue of a chastened individualism, as the existentialists try to conceive of social solidarity in a manner that will enhance rather than compromise individual freedom and responsibility, which remain non-negotiable. In the last chapter, I draw on the foregoing as well as on other aspects of existentialist thought to consider the continued relevance of existentialist philosophy in our day. It is necessary to separate the philosophical significance of the movement, its powerful insights, and its attention to the concrete from the arresting but now dated trappings of its left-bank adolescence. From many likely candidates, I chose 4 topics of current interest to which the existentialists have something of philosophical import to say. 2 features of this brief volume may perhaps strike the reader as limitations even in a short introduction: the number of commonly recognized existentialist names that are absent and, at the other extreme, the possibly excessive presence of Jean-Paul Sartre throughout the work. Regarding the first, though I could have mentioned, for example, Dostoevsky or Kafka, Giacometti or Picasso, Ionesco or Beckett, all powerful exemplars of existentialist themes in the arts, my concern is to treat existentialism as a philosophical movement with artistic implications, rather than as just a literary movement with philosophical pretensions, which is a common though misguided conception. The reason for not discussing Buber or Berdyaev, Ortega y Gasset or Unamuno, and many other philosophers deserving of mention here, is that this is a very short introduction, after all. Those interested in pursuing the topics discussed here will find suggestions of useful sources at the end of the book. As for the prominence of Sartre, he and de Beauvoir are the only philosophers in this group who admitted to being existentialists. To the extent that it is a 20th century movement, existentialism certainly centered on his work, and no one better exemplifies the union of and tension between philosophy and literature, the conceptual and the imaginary, the critical and the committed, philosophy as a reflection and philosophy as a way of life, that defines the existentialist mode of philosophizing than does Jean-Paul Sartre. Acknowledgements. This short volume was written under the ideal conditions provided by the Center for Humanistic Inquiry at Emory University. I am most grateful for the Senior Research Fellowship as well as for the support of Tina Brownlee, Steve Everett, Keith Anthony, Amy Erbel, and Colette Barlow of the Center in making this possible and bringing it to completion. I appreciate the comments of David Carr, Tony Jensen, Vanessa Rumble, and Cindy Willett on specific portions of the manuscript. The